I'd like to welcome everybody to the Voting Advisory Council meeting for March 4th, 2005. And what we will do is go around and do introductions very quickly. And I'll start. I'm Jeff Salt with Utah Anglers Coalition, also chair of the Advisory Council representing paddle sport interests.
Hi, I'm Patrick Morris. I'm a Recreation Program Director here at the division.
Hello, I'm Marina. I'm a grant analyst. That's where you look.
Thanks, everybody. My name is Jorge Vasquez. I'm the Motorized Recreation Grant Analyst for the division. And yeah, I'll pass it on to Ty.
Okay. Yep, Ty Hunter. I'm the Voting Program Manager for the Division of Outdoor Rec.
Good afternoon, everyone. Craig Walker. I'm the Assistant Chief of Sport Fish with the Division Wildlife Resources Aquatic Section, and I also oversee the Boater Access Program through the Division of Wildlife.
Awesome. I can call people out online. Adam? Looks like you're on mute there.
Sorry, trying to work at the same time. Adam Eco, representing Motorized Boaters.
Jason Taylor?
You're on mute too.
Jason Taylor representing the Outfitters.
Zach
Williams representing personal watercraft users.
Tim?
Tim Herzog representing the dealer side.
Nicole?
Hi there, I'm Nicole Hanna. I'm the new attorney working with State Parks and the Department of Recreation, and I'm sitting in because Shane got the nasty gunk that's going around. So he won't be able to join us, but if you guys have any procedural or other questions with complying with OTMA, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I'll sit back quietly and behave myself.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public that are joining by phone or computer? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for spending your afternoon. We have a lot of work to do today. Our first item of business will be to review and approve our minutes from our last meeting. And I'll welcome a motion about the minutes at any time from anybody.
I'll make a motion to approve the meetings. This is Jason Taylor. I'll make a motion to approve the meetings from the February meeting.
Excellent. Second?
I second.
Okay. Zach Williams. Second. Okay, any discussion, any corrections, amendments, additions? Okay, having no other discussion or amendments, I'll take a vote. All those in favor of adopting the minutes from our February meeting, say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes. Thank you. All right, our next item on our agenda is public comment section. Anybody from the public at large attending in person or virtually, we provide short 3-minute opportunities to talk about anything that's related to boating that is not on the agenda. If we have anybody from the public that would like to speak. Okay, hearing of no people. We'll move on, and we'd like to welcome Jenny. Jenny, would you like to introduce yourself really quickly? You have to unmute.
There we go. I am Jen Knudsen, voting commissioner.
Great. Okay, welcome. Okay, so we're going to dive right into the voting access grant review for, is it 2026 actually, fiscal year?
Fiscal year 2026. Yes.
Yeah, okay, so we have it as 2025 in the agenda. So I would like to actually start our discussion on these grants and give Craig and Ty a couple of minutes to give us an overview, a little bit of details about the grant applications and the scoring matrix that we received, and just a little bit of background, and then kind of lay the groundwork for what we're going to be doing to discuss and prioritize these grants.
Sure. Since the mid-90s, Utah has been lucky enough to be able to tap into federal funds that are provided by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service through their voter access program. That program is called Boating Access because it applies to both motorized and non-motorized watercraft. And there are a whole suite of eligible activities that are covered under that grant. Everything from dredging to aid in navigability, to ramps themselves, docks, mooring buoys, navigational buoys. Easements can be purchased for access. Several areas of the country do not have the public lands that we do here in Utah and actually have to pay for access sites. Several different things, many of which are covered tonight in the list of projects that were proposed for fiscal year 26 funding. As I said, this program has been ongoing in Utah since 1994, I believe. We've invested probably on the order of, I would hazard to guess, $60 million at least in voting access investments since that time. Those investments are continuing to grow with new installs, but additionally, a lot of those investments come due for maintenance needs, and you'll see a lot of those maintenance needs presented tonight in project proposal form as well. Annually, we invest probably on the order of $1.3 million between Division of Wildlife Resources as the grantee with those Fish and Wildlife Service dollars, and then our match partner, which historically was State Parks and is now the Division of Outdoor Recreation. They put forward on the order of $350,000+ annually to aid us in leveraging those funds. We do accept match from our applicants if it is indeed non-federal match. That match can take the form of an in-kind contribution, such as labor. It also can take the form of cash, of course. As we go through tonight's project proposals, you'll see them presented as holistic. They are, most of them, to my knowledge in reviewing them, are not shown as phased projects. However, as we go through this process and we identify potential places where an element of a particular project might not be eligible for funding, or an element of a project might be postponed as a line item for later that would not hamper the overall success of the project. Those are discussion points that we might have this evening as we review those projects and go through scoring. Trying to think of anything else we can say. This is a process that I think, from my standpoint, is a rekindled effort, and I want everybody to understand that it is a dry run of sorts. That dry run is designed for us to practice with real proposals, if you will. But put us in a position where potentially a more competitive vying for the money that we have available to us annually is in the offing. And I speak to that because in the future, we have a situation where we are going to be, Jorge, myself, Ty, taking stock in what we have on the landscape throughout Utah as far as boating access sites, assessing where we are in the way of condition or useful life for those access sites and the amenities that are associated with them. And with that, be able to start to calendar what we have in the way of maintenance needs through time. Those maintenance needs need to be met to prevent deferred maintenance. And we'll compete for and vie for funding alongside of new projects or new voting access sites. And we need to be cognizant of that moving forward. So although tonight seems like it's a fairly easy review of 12 projects, my vision is, and I think Jorge has this vision as well, and Ty, that this is going to grow and become a more competitive environment where your insights, your input will be really valuable as we try to prioritize our investments in the long term.
Is that it? Ty, would you like to add to that?
Well, I can't beat what Craig already said there. So it's just been an incredible, what is it, almost 13 years me and you've been working together. Pretty close with that. Yeah, I know it's been a long time working with me. But anyway,
It's been longer than that.
it's been longer than that, yeah. But on this particular project, it's just been it's a good thing that can go to the voters of Utah. There's been some incredible things that we've done. And I think that we will be doing into the future with that. This is new now that we have, grant analysts. Help me again. I'm going to put like the all grant master. Grant master. So
Patrick.
so there we go. Yeah. So anyway, to have them in the room here, really with this is just we're going to be looking at this, and also how can we leverage our state dollars to be able to get more federal funding, and then be able to make that go even more to where the public can see the noticeable effects of these programs together and doing so. So that's that future portion that Craig is talking about that is really kind of awesome to go with. So, and I won't say any more because I'm just going to repeat what Craig said.
Okay, I'd like to welcome George Summer to the meeting. George, you'd like to just quickly say hello and who you're representing?
Hey, I'm here. I finally made it. Representing anglers.
Great. Glad to have you. Okay. I thought also it might be useful to just take just a few minutes and go around with council members and tell us what your experience was in reviewing the grants, troubles you had, things that you found were beneficial.
Maybe we ought to, just because of the timeline, can we do a wrap up and have notes taken for that? And then let's do a follow-up maybe after we do our selection process.
That's a good idea.
So I'm not following what you're proposing.
So instead of having kind of finding flaws and whatever else with that, let's make notes of what those flaws are and let's learn through this experience. And then we can have a follow-up that we kind of put these ideas together, and then this is something that we can go back, work on, and then return and report of how we fixed them.
Yeah, I think that's excellent, because I spoke with Craig and Ty just in the last couple of days about the grant process and the applications and the scoring criteria and the overall picture. And this is obviously a work in progress, and it's up to us as council members to give input so that we can refine this process and make it better. And so I don't know that we would take all those comments right now. I think it would behoove all of us to make notes of your own and send them in also. That would be really helpful. I know that I've had experience working with the division on a couple of grant cycles and being on a review committee twice. And this one kind of made me stand up and was like, oh, wait a minute, there's something kind of odd about the criteria and the application. And I found that the questions didn't quite fit the criteria very well. And so I had a hard time with this grant in actually applying the criteria to the questions and assigning a score, just because there seemed to be a disconnect. And in talking with Ty, I think it was Ty, he mentioned that this is actually an older application. And so what's happening is that there's a revision of the grant process so that the grants and the applications and the criteria are more in sync with other grants and other review processes. Is that fair to
You're-
say, Patrick?
I'd like to add something here. So really, I hope you all understand and just really understand that we're really trying to come up with something here, and it's a work in progress, right? This
Yeah.
is the first time this group has come together, first time that we've started to kind of bring, for example, like me and Patrick in and trying to help out Craig any way that we can. And so it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
It's not obviously 100% perfect, but it's a work in progress, and we'll get there at some point. And so, yeah.
No, I didn't want my
Yeah,
comments
no,
to
of
be
course.
critical. That was my first observation that I had. It was a lot easier for me when I was working on the UCOR grant, but this one seemed to be a lot more of a challenge for me. I don't know if anybody else had any challenges but I was impressed by a lot of the projects that were being proposed, the scope of some of the projects ranging from, Saratoga Springs down to, small projects at Strawberry or, Petrified Forest. It was quite amazing to see the range and scope of projects and how some projects seemed to be more cost effective and some to be very expensive. So all of that was kind of interesting for me, but I'd like to just take a few comments from the council members on what their experience was, and then we can move on.
Okay, that's gonna make us potentially go over with that, but
Just
whatever,
we're just
whatever the
gonna
body
do,
wants.
yeah, we're just gonna do a few minutes. Does anybody have any comments or thoughts?
I'm just going to point out, Jeff, that the process that was outlined here is light years ahead of what we used to use. And it actually was pretty effective for me because it kind of was very similar to what I built for myself in the past. So it actually worked pretty good from my perspective, and I didn't have any issues with it.
Yeah, I
Patrick?
as well
Well,
didn't
Adam.
have too many. The scoring criteria helped me to go in there and kind of look at it. It took me a little bit to go through them all, but I was fine with it. There were some things that didn't quite apply, but that's fine. And there's some things on there that I didn't understand, and we'll figure them out. So
Yeah, I would echo that. I think the score sheet actually was well done. Probably just any deficiency would be in the application itself, being able to map it to that score sheet. And it sounds like that's the explanation for it, that the application possibly is older than the updated score sheet. So I really thought the format of the score sheet was good. I don't know if there's weighting involved. I didn't see any weighting on those categories. That would maybe be the only recommendation, if there would be an overlay of potential weighting. But
Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, just thank you, all three of you, for those great comments. Yeah, I'm just to kind of give you a quick peek behind the scenes. And we just kind of developed this. We're just using a lot of kind of what we're considering when we're thinking about a lot of grant projects across the state, and this I think, as Craig had talked about, this is a really good test year. With the amount of funding, versus how much funding is available. And so as we are considering how's the best way to evaluate, how's the best way to elicit those through the applications, I think we kind of just tried to do the best with what we could, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities to develop that better. I got it.
That's great. Any other comments from council members? Okay, great. Well, I think that's a good kind of, icebreaker discussion. And so now we can really start getting into the meat of this. And so I don't know who I should turn this over to. Craig, do you want to take over and lead us through the process that you'd like us to go through to present our scores and to help rank these?
sure. So you all had an opportunity to score the projects after you read them on their merit, based upon the criteria that Jorge was able to cobble together. And I think it is definitely valuable for us to look at those raw scores first. I would entertain any questions that you all might have related to specific projects, rather than try to give 8 minutes of FaceTime to each project, seeing that you've already provided your scores, as I understand, correct?
Yes.
So if there were questions related to specific projects, I'd be able to field those. And we can take a look at the scores at the same time, possibly.
And I could present the scores. I have the sheet here, so
Okay.
if there's any questions.
One question I would have, Craig, so we have 530, roughly $8,000 in requests from the division. And the average amount from the division, from state parks or Division of Outdoor Recreation in the past has been 350,000. So part of our process then will be to call out 200,000 roughly dollars that projects aren't going to make it, or do we?
Yeah, and we went through the projects and took a peek at, possible areas where we might be able to cut earlier in the week. And I think that specifically when we look at the Utah Lake State Park upgrade and maintenance, we talk about eligibility of activities. There is a line item in the overall budget for that project that is related to rental slips. And those rental slips are not, overnight rentals. They are not, paying for parking for 2 hours. They are long-term rental slips, and those are not public access eligible. And that line item and the associated engineering related to it equated to $128,000 in that project, and those could be stripped out of that project. The other elements of the project appeared to have merit and be eligible for voter access funding. That is an example of something that we saw earlier this week.
Okay. There was also a question that I had. I don't know if others had the same question. There were 3 projects that we didn't have documentation for to really score, and that was the Boat Utah app, the DWR Tech site visit assessment time, and the maintenance and operation at Flaming Gorge.
Sure. So just background on, it's probably my fault for not submitting those projects through the process so that you all had a clear understanding of what they are. The Flaming Gorge operation and maintenance project has been an ongoing project at Flaming Gorge now since 2010, I think. And it is an investment, started off as an investment of $15,000. It's expanded to $30,000. That is, again, I call it an investment. It is an investment on the part of the division and our match partner in the form of Outdoor Rec to ensure that the infrastructure that we have invested in on the ground at Flaming Gorge is maintained seasonally. That entails movement of docks, repairing of docks, assessing the breakwater structure and whether it's functioning properly up there, et cetera. And we've worked hard to create an agreement with them. We learned that we needed to create an agreement with the Forest Service up there in the Ashley, that specified the line items, the localities that we needed to have addressed in that operation and maintenance effort on a yearly basis. So that's where that project comes in. Again, I apologize for not putting it through a process where you all would be able to view it. I didn't do that because it is just a perennial investment. Similarly, the Boat Utah app is now on its 3rd year, and we are in maintenance mode, if you will. It will be an ongoing expense to create and maintain the boating analog to what many of you hopefully are tapping into in the way of Fish Utah. It will be the boater trip planning tool that provides people with the same level of querying ability and insights, but from a boating centric lens that we see in Fish Utah for anglers. So as I said, that's year 3. The original build cost was $352,000, I believe. The annual maintenance costs are $175,000 and change. That maintenance cost seems to be a lot, but at the same time, for what we're getting out of not only the maintenance, but potential tweaks and integration with our watercraft inspection database, because that was created by the same company, to aid in our aquatic invasive species control efforts statewide. I think it's a worthwhile investment. The third one on there that I put forward that did not, again, go through the process, I apologize, is heavily related to that project. And is the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources Tech Time for Site Assessment. So I talked about the Boat Utah app being a trip decision-making tool for the general public. It is also a tool that is going to be used by boating administrators and this team here, this council, moving forward as we assess maintenance needs across the state. As we inventory our boating infrastructure, we'll be using this mobile app. We'll be employing it among our biologists, technicians out in the field, so that when they're conducting day-to-day operations, sampling fish or other things on flat waters across Utah, they are able to enter information into this database related to the boating infrastructure that we have out in the state, looking at access site-specific locations on water bodies and the amenities that are provided at those sites, and then assessing either through looking at the grant history related to those or by visual examination what they feel the condition or useful life is of those amenities on site. As we do that, we cobble together that laundry list of what we have in the way of maintenance requirements. We will be providing boaters with what, through surveys nationally and regionally, have been identified as the most important thing, which is not new infrastructure, but well-maintained infrastructure. One of the reasons why, as a good example, you see 4 projects for Strawberry this year is because we received a hailstorm of calls about the condition of facilities at Strawberry Reservoir. Immediately after our press release that spoke to the fact that we are doing great things to invest in boating access in Utah, people said, oh yeah, then what's going on with Strawberry? And in response to that, I contacted Alan. I had Alan contact the Forest Service personnel on the ground there. We had a face-to-face meeting and we said, look, you've got deferred maintenance going on at your facilities. We need those fixed. Whatever you feel needs to be addressed, let's address it through boater access proposals this year. And that's why you see the 4 proposals that were put forward this year. In a similar way, I think once we actually have a laundry list of maintenance needs, we, as the outdoor recreation folks and Division of Wildlife Resources folks, will be able to go out to our partners, land management partners on the ground and say, look, you have this, 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 and this coming due. Please submit a proposal in fiscal year 2029 for these maintenance needs so that we don't end up in a deferred maintenance conundrum.
So with those items in the list, are they prioritized at the top automatically, or how do we handle those?
So in a decision-making arena, right, you are a boating advisory council. And I'm just speaking to my understanding of what advisory councils are designed to do, whether it's the Habitat Council, whether it's the Blue Ribbon Fisheries Advisory Council, the Boating Advisory Council. My understanding is that we will take your suggestions under advisement. You are giving us from a constituent's standpoint what you feel are the most important priorities for boating in Utah. At the same time, once we go back to the drawing board with your suggestions in hand, we also have to take into consideration the longevity of the boating program in Utah, the political considerations related to possibly alternate funding sources that might, for instance, expire that are associated with a particular project here that might not have ranked highly. And those type of considerations come into play as far as us taking your thoughts and the political realities we deal with and meshing the two to come up with the final list of projects and the associated amounts for those projects. We then would go back, and this is my understanding, we would then go back to the advisory councils, this being the Boating Advisory Council, with the final list of suggested funding for each of the approved projects, just to be transparent, and then describe the process we went through and the rationale we used to maybe sift through your suggestions to come up with that final list. That's my understanding of how things go.
Did we have some comments?
I have a question, and maybe we'll go through each project line by line so I can hold this, but I was just curious, is the Boat Utah, the Utah Boat app, is that live currently or is that still in development?
We have a training for the use of the admin mobile app in March, and we will begin using it from that point forward to populate the data. Once we get a critical mass of data that we feel is sufficient for a number of important waters out there that would be of interest to boaters, then we'll make it live from a public facing standpoint.
Okay, thank you.
With foundation.
No, it's going to be something pretty special. So I'm
It's
excited.
gonna be great.
Okay, so what would you recommend that we do to proceed? What's our first step? Go through and show the scores?
We can go through the scores, like I can share it right here.
Okay, let's
And
do
then
that.
We had actually kind of developed a live scoring sheet to also kind of help you all as well. If you're wanting to partially fund things or if you're wanting to cut things out entirely, it just kind of depends on what everybody's thoughts are, but we can update it as well.
And with this, so what we put up here is what you guys did individually by yourselves with this, but now we may go through and answer questions maybe a little bit more in depth and shed a little bit more light on what is there. If you want to change your vote, that's what Jorge was talking about, is putting this live setup in here. We can put it and have this vote set up and we can, if you want to change it, this is where we're going to have it done so we can kind of progressively see where everybody's at.
And we have one member from the public who has joined us, Ron Dunn, and he's with the Strawberry Anglers Association. So he, at some point, would probably like to say something about the strawberry projects, and we'll try to figure out where we can plug him in for a couple minutes comment.
Yeah, if you wanted, let's see. This is the first one. The first one is actually John Larson. Second evaluator, this is what we were thinking on that.
Do you have a tally? You have a tally of what they have?
Yeah, I think it might be useful to have more
Combined.
tally, huh?
Now, it doesn't have the actual like high, low type of priority here, but we got the highest scores here though.
Okay, so your total scores.
Yeah, total scores.
We freeze frame the scoot all the way over
The names.
We can bring that bar right there over to NA. There we go. Now it'll stick.
This is what we're scores.
So these are a little small, but
Yeah, let's see if we can increase there we go.
that's a little better.
And then Adam has a hand up.
Hey, I was just noticing that Saratoga scored extremely high. Does anybody know, is that an open marina to the public? Because in the past, it's always been you couldn't always just punch there. Does anybody know the answer to that?
Yeah, it's gonna be a north marina. So there's a north and a south there. So this will be the southernmost access on the west side, the developed access on the west side.
But it will be public.
Yeah, so that it is public. The main one is public. That will used to be that is what they're considering the south one. And then the north one's brand new breakwater that they put around. So there's going to be two in essence basins that they're going to be managing.
Does Saratoga Springs own part of that? Like the city itself?
Where they're building that, this is a lease from Forestry Fire and State Lands, but it is operated. The lease is with Saratoga City.
Okay.
So, and Adam, you're probably thinking about, are you thinking about the private one? It used to be the old amusement park back in the roaring amusement park days. Before our time.
Back when I was a teenager. No, I don't. I always thought that northern one, the northern one there just out of Saratoga Springs. I tried lunching there maybe 7-8 years ago and was denied, so I had to go somewhere else. But so I don't know.
They had
I thought it was
housing,
or private.
there was a housing development that had
Yeah,
their private.
the HOA,
launch.
the HOA.
That's what I was thinking it was. Yeah, that's what I thought when I saw this project. I thought it was for that.
No.
I'll have to take
That's-
a drive out there this weekend or something.
Well, it would be nice on this one if we could see a map overlay of how it fits in. I looked at the maps and I couldn't see where it fits in relation to the one Adam's talking about, because I have that same concern. I've been in that other one and been chased out of it from the water side.
Did you want them to go see it?
Well, let's open a new tab and then get it. I'll guide you in and then we'll show.
And we're gonna
We'll
pull that
pull
up.
up a map on this one here.
You want Google Maps?
The one thing I thought about Saratoga Springs application was that it was really well thought out compared to other applications. They had a lot more information, a lot more description.
So, Jorge,
They had a lot more partnerships.
in the
Uh,
packet.
They even had, the conceptual drawings of what the place is gonna look like compared to other applications that didn't have quite the documentation to support the application. I thought that they did a really good job. And that area of Utah Lake, that area of Utah County is just growing, and there's a lot of people with boats. And so that's just gonna be a high demand access area.
Yeah, some of it's North Utah County, but it's mainly South Salt Lake County is being the big push that's into that area.
Yeah.
Is it this one, Craig?
It's the one titled North Marina Construction Documents _reduced.
Is it gonna fall under state parks at all, like as far as
No.
fee based? Is there gonna be any kind of fee to use the area or to launch there or?
Yeah, Saratoga City does charge a fee for the access to their facility, and it will not
Okay.
be, this is all city ran.
Okay, so all the money
So-
will go to them. So I'm just, my track here is like ongoing, like taking care of it and everything. Who's that gonna fall to? How are the fees gonna be?
So as far as the stipulation with regard to the use of the federal dollars, applicants are required through their agreement, which is their funding agreement under a cooperative agreement instrument. That's how we make payment. Required to A, maintain public access, but B, use any of the proceeds from that access to maintain the access. So it's a user pay, user benefit kind of situation specific to this investment. Yeah, that's generally how we work this. I think Manaway was a good example of that historically. State parks, of course, that money comes back as match to us for leveraging other projects. And is used, of course, for maintenance of their facilities ongoing, even though they're a state agency, but that applies to any one of the applicants.
Great, okay.
And where is this in relationship to Pelican?
North.
It's north of
Pelican
Pelican.
Point,
Mhm.
it's north.
So on that map or you get out of that. So this is the Saratoga one because on the document, it looked like it was almost, the arrow was pointing to the American Fork Harbor.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
So,
Yeah, that one you can tell is the Saratoga side.
You were finding that?
So
But
do
go
you
back
not
to
have,
wherever the document was, it was like the arrow was almost pointing to, that dot, that little yellow dot and the arrow pointing to it,
Yeah,
just
That
right
is
of the
confusing.
mouse. That looks like American Forks, isn't it?
well, I think with the scale of the map that they provided, it was it's kind of hard to tell where they're pinpointing with that marker.
Okay, but it is for sure that Saratoga site.
Craig's gonna log on and he'll share his screen.
I think I was a good dude getting killed in that microphone.
I'm muted, that's why. Hey, Craig,
Yes, sir.
is this the one that the division started a long time ago? We called it New Harbor.
I think it's building off of that, if I remember correctly.
All right, I know what it is.
It's been a
And that-
minute.
It was the one when the city turned over the old one to the homeowners association. They had to build a brand new one to provide the access. So yes, this is kind of one of those.
Sorry, it's a huge CAD file, so it's eating up all of my virtual memory. Let's see if I can get rid of some of this stuff.
Now, Saratoga Springs is a phased project, and we just heard something about not having phased projects, but this is definitely a phased project.
It's a phased project, but the proposal as presented for funding this year is not phased.
But it is for a phase.
Yes. But we were not privy to the overall, they didn't request every single element for all of the phases. All right, see if I can actually do something with this.
If I recall in the narrative, that this phasing of the overall project is going to go into the 2030s by the time they get done with everything.
CAD not playing nice with me. All right, let's see if I can do this, and then I'm not gonna be able to see, but I should see it there.
Oop, almost getting there.
Beautiful. All right, so there's the overall project as a CAD drawing. Additionally, I'm going to go back 1 feet and show you about where that is related to Saratoga Road. Hopefully that is giving you some resolution as to where it is.
And this is south of Inlet Park, right?
Yes.
See if there's any other sheets here.
So this is not the north break wall, doing the expansion off of the original.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And the map we showed that Jorge had up there is incorrect of its location, so we're trying to get that more information with that.
Should be
Yeah, it does seem to be at the extreme northern end
Yeah,
of the lake, because that's the Jordan River right there. So I think that map is accurate with the star, fairly accurate.
that's the one I was thinking that it was, and
Yeah.
I haven't been to in 6 years because we were denied access to it, so I thought it was public.
No, this
Private.
isn't the homeowners one. This is, they must have exchanged. There is an older, like way old marina that was in there that needs to have dredging and such with it. There was a bunch of, willow trees kind of lining on the east side of it. But yeah, it's just east of Inlet Park. So I stand to be way corrected that that's where its location is,
So east of Inlet Park, not south.
not south.
Okay.
So I was making the assumptions that it was off, it was the expansion that they were building off of the public one.
So it's a whole brand new marina essentially.
Whole brand new, yep.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like.
Looks like, George, it looks like the old secret bass fishing spot, doesn't it?
Yes, that's exactly what that's what I'm thinking it looks like, Adam.
Remember the one you used to have to like push your boat into? Yeah, there it is. There's the little canal. You'd go around. Yeah. Okay. It's the old secret harbor, George.
I think the one you're thinking of is,
That's not it.
no, it's actually, what would it be, east of the closed or private Saratoga Springs launch?
Yeah.
They call it, started with an M, and you had to pull in, and once you got in there,
Yeah.
it was okay.
That's what I was thinking. That is right there. If you look at that little oxbow there, kind of like marina, the old marina site.
That's it. I think that's what it is.
And this is the east of where the hot springs
Yes.
were.
So this is between the gates and American Fork.
So, okay, so we've got a figure on where it is. What are we gonna, what's the discussion? It's ranked the highest, right, of all the projects?
Yeah, it's ranked the highest out of all the projects.
And I guess what do we do? Just ask if everybody's comfortable with that ranking? Is that what you want? Is that what you need from us?
Well, you all can rescore if you're really wanting to. We have a, Mentimeter, especially after you all had the discussion of like, for example, the blank projects and what a little bit more of an understanding, because you have access to those folders. We have a Mentimeter. You can change up the priorities of whatever y'all want.
So
For me,
is
I'm
is
comfortable with
Utah
ranking.
Go ahead, Tim.
is Utah Lake traffic ranked that high for building new marinas?
Yeah, it could be. It could be, yes.
It has the potential of being expanded boating and expanded fishing opportunities.
So the estimate is that Utah's public is going to grow by, it's going to double by 2035 as far as our residency. And with what we anticipate to be stable boating participation as far as per capita boating participation, we anticipate that there's going to be a doubling of boating as well. As that doubling happens, along with a doubling in angling, combined with the fact that Utah Lake Authority and the Division of Wildlife Resources are both engaging in efforts to improve access to the lake, angling opportunities on the lake, recreational boating opportunities on the lake. My guess is that we are being pretty proactive here in trying to establish new locations for people to launch and retrieve their boats. If we don't, we're going to have to build to that demand in the future. It's just, being proactive versus reactive, I believe, is kind of what's going on here.
Tim has a question.
So, and I'm just, I don't want to be, I guess, devil's advocate on this. What kind of boating? Is it being paired with, is there cleanup, or this is always brought to the table every single year, right? Dredging, getting it deeper, cleaning it up, right? I mean, I'm probably the one who's been involved in boating probably the least of a lot of people here, but that's on the docket every single year, and every year it gets shut down. is any traffic drivers, I guess, pushing towards, I mean, I'm all for Utah Lake. I would love Utah Lake to be even better than it is. From the surfing community, like, and which is a large portion of our boating and our growth there, Utah Lake doesn't have the greatest rep. Is there something that's maybe going to be paired with that from cleanliness and like a depth standpoint, or dread, like, right? Is that kind of,
So from a habitat improvement standpoint, and a reduction in the turbidity and improvement of the vegetation along the shoreline, water quality, Utah Lake Authority, Division of Wildlife Resources, Forestry Fire, State Lands, several partners are coming together to improve the overall condition of Utah Lake. The mindset is, that an investment in Utah Lake with an eye on improving its quality as a recreational resource, as a fishery for sport fishing opportunities, as a refuge for the recovery species of June sucker, allows for, I'll say, greater capacity from a developmental standpoint, as far as increased opportunities for people to live, say, on the western shoreline that has been underdeveloped through time. So there is kind of a front loading of efforts to increase the appearance, the cleanliness, the recovery potential, the recreational potential of the lake, with an eye on that being done in exchange for greater development on the lake. I would imagine that's my gauge in what is happening. There is a lot of investment going on to the lake right now, and I appreciate that. And I think it's, for us, time to strike while the iron's hot. There's a lot of legislative investment through Utah Lake Authority in efforts to improve the situation on the lake. Access is just simply one facet of that.
Well, just to play off the access piece with this is if you go to the Saratoga facility, the public facility that's there on the west side, when it was built, it was at capacity. They did an expansion, it was still beyond capacity. It just the homes just keep getting built in that area. We're starting to see there's just nothing at the north end to handle the capacity of the people that are coming to use the facilities. Now, I'm going to say that there has been a little shift since the harmful algal blooms kicked in, and there is another black eye that body of water has because of that. Frankly, nothing new. I think we're going to see it more and more on more bodies throughout this, Utah, throughout the United States, across the world. It's just going to happen. It's just where we're at with that. But I think this is a great opportunity for a city that is such a dense populace to take some of their free open space and make a new access point to the water for people to use.
All right.
yeah, and believe me, I'm all for, if we can make Utah Lake great again, we'll just use that. I'm in, because personally and selfishly, I mean, I would be 5 minutes from this new dock. That'd be awesome. I would love it. I'd love to boat on it. Our dealership here is a minute and a half from the Linden Marina, right? And on that side, I mean, I'd love to be able to utilize it more. And it does come to some of those where it is a hard lake sometimes to boat. I know that in the middle of summer, my guys come back from dipping boats in the water, and they're covered in bugs, and the boats are covered in bugs, and right, like there's obviously a lot of things. There's a lot of things around Utah Lake as a mindset that get people to turn. So I would be the first to advocate for making Utah Lake just amazing. It's a massive body of water. We could house a ton of boats on it. Business from our side standpoint, I'm sure every single dealer would love it. But there's just some of those
things around it. So, yeah, no promises on the reduced bug load. Sorry.
Well, you think about Utah Lake, it's one of the largest freshwater bodies in the western United States. And for the population along the Wasatch Front, Great Salt Lake is not really a motorboat kind of place. It's a sailing paddle sport type of lake because of the salt. And so you have to have freshwater recreation access. Utah Lake is it. Willard Bay is probably next, for those people that live in Davis or Weber County. So as Craig was saying, the future is Utah Lake from recreational boating and for fishing.
And there's, frankly, that lake is not at capacity. The problem is the access areas that are what sets the capacity for the lake.
Well, and that's part of it too. If you look at, again, it's similar to habitation around the lake. There's an imbalance, right? You don't have the capacity right now to disperse boaters to a variety of locations, even with new highway corridors on that get you to that north and western area. Boaters are pretty much relegated to congregating on the usual haunts, Linden, Utah Lake, Marina, etc. And it puts us in a weird position because we want to maintain boating as a recreational outlet for people, but people will tend to shy away from boating, not only in a particular water, but boating in general, if they begin to encounter crowding on a regular basis. And any way that we can disperse that pressure and get it spread out across different launch points, knowing that once they get on the water, there's ample room for people to self-segregate. That's what we need to do.
So I guess the question for the council members would be, do you want to leave the tally where it is? Does anybody want to adjust their score for this project up or down? Right.
And like I mentioned, I do have a live ranking sheet that we can present to the council members, and we can see a live adjustments of whatever you all are deciding in terms of what you want to rank them.
So, I mean, if anybody wants to change their ranking for this project, speak up, raise your hand, tell us, so we can move on.
I already did. So the numbers reflect my changes, and I only made some minor adjustments. But I think we're good to go on it.
Yeah, this grant application hit a lot of areas for me. I think it was quality application, but I think as far as sustainability, some of the conversation in the language around the wetlands mitigation efforts and restoration, I thought that was a nice component to see in there as well. Kind of speaking to the overall quality of the environment there at Utah Lake.
Who was talking?
Just the background.
Okay. All right. So I guess then we're okay with Saratoga North at where it is. Let's go down the list to the next highest ranked project, if you would, Jorge.
Can we present again?
Because we've got less than an hour left in our meeting, unless you want to go. Okay, what's our next ranked?
So I actually did tie with Utah Lake. The next one would be Utah Lake State Park.
So as we mentioned before, the Utah Lake State Park, for those of you that wanted to revisit your scores, if you scored it low, as George indicated, you might have, as a result of there being the pay-to-play rental slips. Those are no longer eligible and would be stripped from the project. We would go back to Utah Lake Authority and say, hey, we want to strip these out. They're not eligible for this funding pot, but we'll move forward or suggest moving forward with the other elements of the proposal as listed.
I'll just comment that I'm going to leave my score the same. It's good to hear that those slips are coming out of that. I know Utah Lake State Park is a highly used area, and it definitely needs some help and some love.
Well, the nice thing about Utah Lake State Park is that it's accessible for people, Spanish Fork, Benjamin, if they don't want to go to Linden, to the South Beach there, Lincoln Beach, and Orem. There's a huge population in Orem and Provo, and there's a lot of boaters, a lot of people with big boats. So it's, I didn't rank it quite as high because my personal approach to this was one big project at Utah Lake, but then there's another priority for the state for boating and fishing, and that's Strawberry. And so I kind of made my adjustment, and some of the project elements I thought were not as critical at Utah Lake State Park, parking lot fixing, that can be patched and maybe put off for a year. So I thought that, in my opinion, I still ranked Utah Lake pretty high, but I brought it back down just because of the nature of some of the projects that I thought that other priorities on the list would be a little higher. Any other thoughts, perspectives on scoring? Okay, I guess that means we'll leave that where it sits. Okay, what's the next one on the list? The numbers are still just a little small for me to read from here.
Next one's gonna be Pelican boat ramp.
And what was the number on the Pelican total?
Total number was 173.
173.
This one looked like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys. It was only a small investment. The docks have already been, it's already been purchased. We're just helping them install
Yep.
it. I think it's just to get it done.
Total agreement with that.
Well, and I go there a lot. That's why I ranked it pretty high, because it's in desperate need of upgrades, especially to the dock. I believe the dock they use now is an 8-footer, which, depending on where they've got it at the water level, is one boat capable.
Just need to get it paved to get out there, so you don't ding up your boat. Yes.
It's like I better plan a trip.
Yeah, it's worth the trip. Go see George.
Well, I'm okay with that. I ranked it a little bit lower again, just because I thought that the issues at Strawberry, being our most popular fishery destination point, and some of the safety issues there with the breakwater, I didn't rank Pelican quite as high. I still ranked it higher, but I didn't quite rank it as high as some of your other folks. But I'm okay with where it sits.
Okay. Next one would be Lucerne at 165.
Any opinions, thoughts?
Or if you're waiting for comments,
Yeah.
I think I put in my notes that the ramp it actually looks better now than the last time I was there. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't need some help, especially when they develop those big potholes. Some of their potholes in the ramp can be 18 inches or more deep. And it's difficult to navigate and to pull your boat off in a rapid manner.
I gotta go back and read that one.
Well, Flaming Gorge is a very important destination for Utahns and people from Wyoming and even Colorado to some degree. So it's a multi-state destination. And sometimes I think that multi-state destinations like Bear Lake, Flaming Gorge, Lake Powell, they have to have a little more sophistication, maintenance, just to attract, especially the out-of-staters. But I personally still rate Strawberry the breakwater project higher than, it was equal in my, I think I was tied with Lucerne in my ranking. Any other thoughts or rationale? Jason?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that all things Flaming Gorge or Lake Powell or Bear Lake would rank really high for me for those same reasons, just because they're multi-state. I hope that there's other states that they border, especially, are able and willing to put funds into them. I know most of them reside in Utah, but most of the lakes, that is. But yeah, I would rank those high as well. It is important to keep those bodies of water. They're also major water sources for the headwaters of like the Green River, Colorado River, et cetera. So we do need to protect and keep those facilities up as much as possible.
Anybody else? Do we keep this at the same level? Yay, nay?
Yeah, head nods are good.
That next one's gonna be
think so.
Strawberry Marina Breakwater at 160.
Yeah, and this, I'll just kind of jump in. This one is one I would like a little more information about. I did not rank this as high because for me it was a hard one to categorize because it doesn't really add anything to capacity. It doesn't really, it does have, I think, some sustainability elements as part of it, but it does rank high, I'm assuming, as far as safety. And so I'd like some context from those who are more familiar with this.
Well, in the narrative, Zach, you'll remember that there was a breakwater that failed. And so this is a replacement of the breakwater. And there is a big issue with safety in terms of launching and then loading and unloading your boats when the wind blows at Strawberry. And it gets really, the fetch and the waves can be really significant, and it makes it really dangerous sometimes when you're trying to load your boat or unload or even just get out into the water and get your feet adjusted, as it were. So it's, being that Strawberry is such a priority fishing destination, as well as there's other recreational uses there, but the anglers for sure consider, and we have Ron Dunn. It'd be nice to maybe just listen to Ron for a minute. He's with Strawberry Anglers Association. He's been focused on helping make Strawberry a better place, a better destination, and there's been a lot of history at Strawberry. And as Craig mentioned, there's been a lot of feedback after the rollout on, what was accomplished at Strawberry to improve recreation. So I think it's worthwhile. Ron, if you're still with us, if you'd like to maybe take 2 minutes and just kind of talk about there are 4 projects I think you're familiar with, Ron. So in your mind, what is the value of these 4 projects, and possibly how would you rank them, being that you're so focused on Strawberry?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I like all 4 projects. As we know, Strawberry Reservoir receives an incredible amount of public usage. I like if I had to rank them, and that's difficult to do because they're all excellent projects, the one at the main marina, because that is so crowded and it's challenging to load and offload a boat in windy areas. So which there's a lot of wind at Strawberry almost every day. So consequently, I think I'd rank that number 1, but the other 3 would also be popular as well. Because Strawberry is enjoying somewhat of a national reputation, various fishing magazines feature it as a trophy fishery, along with Pyramid Lake in Nevada, although they have different perspectives. If we can spend some resources on enhancing our number 1 fishery in the state, obviously that will appeal to the public and the many fishermen who utilize Strawberry as a relatively close site to the Wasatch Front. And now, of course, we're receiving visitors further south who come up from Spanish Fork Canyon through the new cutoff to Renegade. So that's why the Renegade factor is important. I just wish we also had, and this is more of a DNR project, we had some kind of a check-in station, ensure that we don't have quagga-infested boats coming up from that route to Renegade. But aside from that, Renegade is a popular area. It's crowded. We need to invest some resources in that location as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it.
Yeah, there's some pros and cons with this as you read through it. One of the reasons why the replacement breakwater that was installed, it was a hanging concrete breakwater. It required there to be sections separated and moved and stored during ice on, ice off conditions during the winter, so that they would not be broken. And that maintenance was not performed on a regular basis in a manner that didn't just tear that thing to shreds. The segments were not reattached correctly, etc. So one of the pros of this, if you look at number 4 of the proposal, is the fact that we will work to oversee construction and maintenance, we being the Division of Wildlife Resources, and we will be working to hire a contractor to perform those duties. I think with that, we'll probably be in a better position as far as having this stand the test of time and not get broken as it was before. That was a big investment before, and because we did not maintain it correctly, manage it correctly, it didn't live up to its useful life. My hope is that this will. The odd thing is, and this is kind of the weird thing, is you'll notice that the Division of Wildlife Resources, as we did with Chicken Creek, is supervising the purchase of, purchasing, maintaining. This is a federally managed land. And I think that we need to be careful when we engage in maintenance activities of an infrastructure that is operated by the federal government. They're there for a reason, and we just need to be aware of that as we start to accrue these types of projects. I'm not saying this doesn't have merit. I think it does for the first reason that I mentioned, that as we start to accrue these types of projects through time, our maintenance responsibilities on lands that we do not own becomes greater and greater and greater. And we basically abdicate, or the Forest Service abdicates responsibility for the management of their facilities.
And I've heard from angling people in our organization that they think the Strawberry Breakwater is a very high priority project. And Strawberry gets over 1.5 million angler hours a year. It's just very popular. And so if you have a safety issue with that many people coming, I think it needs to be addressed, and it should be a priority. That one project. The other projects are a little bit lesser priority that are on this list, but the breakwater was mentioned to me by several people in our organization is that this would be their number 1 project.
Hey, Craig, I have a question on this. And I put it in my notes when I scored it. Will this project be in through the late fall? Will the breakwater stay in?
Yeah, I mean, Alan's going to do everything he can to maintain it through that contractor so that it protects anglers is his primary interest, right? Which is what Strawberry is all about. So with that being a pretty good time to make some hay on the water, he will be wanting to have that in as late as possible.
Well, because I fish it a lot in the fall, and the Strawberry Marina pulls their breakwater, pulls their docks, and we're left with nothing. And if this is pulled when I'm there fishing, it doesn't do any benefit to me.
Right, and I think that's where I pointed out that the concessionaire is not responsible for the maintenance and operation.
Okay.
That's the Division of Wildlife Resources. If it had said the concessionaire, I would not be as high as I am on this project, because they are the reason why that existing breakwater didn't stand the test of time. And they are the ones that remove it probably too early to be beneficial to those who enjoy angling on Strawberry in the fall.
And to go to what your comment was, George, about Lucerne, I mean, these are only 5 points apart. But from the photos that I saw in the Lucerne application, to me, it looked like, in my mind, breakwater at Strawberry might be slightly higher priority than Lucerne. I don't know what your thought would be, George.
From my perspective, if it's going to be in there in the late fall, then it's going to rank higher for me. But if there's any question that it's going to be pulled before the bulk of us get to go fish it, then it doesn't have any benefit to me or the other anglers that are there. I was there the week after Thanksgiving, and the parking lot at the main marina was full. And there was no breakwater of any kind there. And yeah, the wind was blowing. We managed, they didn't even have a wedge dock in. We had to put on right where that this breakwater set to be was where there's a concrete block there, and that's where you had to load and unload your people. So my big thing is it's a high priority if it stays in.
And I appreciate the conversation related to the administration and the management. My experience is more with Pineview, but I do have concerns with federally managed areas that are providing less than an optimal experience to boaters, including access. I'm not as familiar with Strawberry, but I do think that is a valid conversation to have around this grant.
Well, I think there's a lot more cooperation and partnership going on, collaboration at Strawberry than we are seeing at Pineview, but Pineview has changed, hopefully.
Well, I think collaboration, cooperation, that's all well and good, but right now, because Pineview is the way it is and Strawberry has been the way it has been, it's completely a result of personality-driven decision-making, not protocol, not agreement-driven, not anything like that. And if we're going to go down this path, I agree with George that if anyone else other than the Division of Wildlife Resources is going to operate this, maintain it, then there has to be some teeth in some sort of document that talks to the timing, the maintenance, the operation. Otherwise, it's at the whim of a concessionaire who's solely out to make money and make it easy on themselves. And that is not what this is about. This is about providing public benefit with federal and state dollars, not providing a concessionaire with an easy job of maintaining something that they really didn't have any skin in the game on to begin with.
Well
So
said.
with this grant, then how would that be
It's about
insured?
It's about the agreement.
Okay, so
The grant itself doesn't drive that. It's about the actual agreement that spells out the stipulations regarding operation, maintenance, fees, et cetera.
and in your opinion, then is it likely then that the division will maintain operation and management of this into the future?
But assuming this gets funded and approved by the council, my conversations with Alan will go something like, we need to set up a memorandum of understanding with anybody other than ourselves that is going to be operating this. If what was stated in the proposal is not true, which is that we, the Division of Wildlife Resources, will be operating and maintaining and paying a contractor to do so. If the contractor is liberally termed contractor, but is really the concessionaire, then we need to have a different language and an MOU in place.
Well, I'd like to see this just because of the
But
volume of use.
that comes later.
Okay.
This process, as far as approving that on its merit, it seems like whether it's rated before Lucerne or after Lucerne, that it still remains a highly ranked proposal. And I
Okay.
think that with that understanding, we could probably move on to the next.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Because they're really close. I mean, the Pelican and Lucerne and Strawberry are still pretty close in in total numbers. So that's fine.
Next one. That next one's gonna be Boat Utah app at 1:55.
I already spoke ad nauseum on that. If you guys need more detail, I can give it.
I didn't score this at all, just because of I didn't know what we were going to be doing about this. So I could add points to this and that would make it go up.
Yeah, I see this as having a broad impact across the state on, once that app is available and being able to potentially even reduce overcrowding if it gives people ideas. Hey, let me try this, like somewhere I'm not, or points out new amenities, features, things like that, which I'm assuming would be part of the objective once it goes live to the public.
Correct.
I just
And-
want to jump in and say this was one of my highest ranked projects just because of the scope.
I could see this being moved up easily into the, 175, 180 number, because I didn't put any numbers. So if I put my vote in for even 24, 25 points across the board for all the parameters, that would bump it right up. So
Hey, Greg, is this similar to the fishing app that DWR launched a few years ago?
Yeah, it's based on that. We're not building it in-house. The Fish Utah app was built in-house.
Yeah.
We're building
Hey, how's it going?
by Astonish, who is the same company that did the watercraft inspection database. And we pursued working with them because the long game would hopefully be the integration of our AIS, rapid response, interdiction, decon with this as well. Pie in the sky ideas, you would then be able to have your profile on your app that would showcase the fact that you had done your watercraft inspections, that would showcase the fact that you had undertaken your clean, drain, and dry boating education. All of those different quote unquote badges would be available via QR code. And we're talking about long-term automation of entry and gating to address situations like we have at a place like Pineview. Potentially you'd be able to use those QR codes to enter those facilities regardless of the time of year, regardless of the time of day, because you are recognized as a trusted boater.
Also to look at too is to have the opportunity to scan your registration, have it in there, scan your insurance to have it in there. So it's all there.
You're thinking of a one-stop, buy your state parks pass, get your entry fee, get your AAS all in one app.
That is if you take an outlook of 5 to 10 years, yeah, that's where we're headed.
Well, I'll add my score to this, and I'll give it a total score of because in relationship to my other scores, I'll give it a 28. My highest score was 30, so that I will rank this really high for myself, and that will adjust the number to 3.
Okay, I'll make sure to add that.
What's our next one?
That next one is going to be the Strawberry Reservoir Renegade dock.
Okay, now just as
134.
a time check, we're roughly halfway through the list, and we have 30 minutes left in the meeting. So we'll have to make some fast dialogue and fast decisions. Any
Okay.
comments?
Yeah, I want to speak to this one. I'm all in favor of the dock. The challenge on this one and the other ones here is that there's no Forest Service commitment. They're not assisting us in making this stuff happen. And the dock is probably needed, but where are we going to put it?
For storage, winter storage is what you're talking about, George?
No, because if you go to Renegade, and you go down the boat ramp, there's a little bit, I mean, there's the edge of on the, what would it be? The west side. I mean, it's right there. The other side is taken up by the concessionaire docks. So where are we going to go with it? You've got about 30 feet before the concessionaire docks that are on the east side. I guess it's the north side of the boat ramp there. So I'm kind of, where are we going to have it? How's it going to work?
Callan has the pinpoint on the south side.
Yeah, I would imagine that we're gonna build it off that south side. I mean, where he has that pin. What we've done, at Fish Lake is we've actually constructed, a mounting point by pouring a concrete block and then securing the gangway with a piano hinge there. And then putting that out in the water with the dock off of that. I would imagine it's going to be a similar design.
Well, I've also heard from anglers about this project, and it's the increased demand because of the cutoff road from Spanish Fork Canyon that's putting pressure on Renegade. And the anglers that have talked to me about this project and the other projects asked to have this ranked higher than the parking lot or Chicken Creek. The parking lot they thought could still be put off, so that would be the bottom priority, and then Chicken Creek, and then the dock, and then the breakwater. So this is a fairly high priority for anglers, and it's because of the increased usage and demand.
Yeah, I think that as we push people to Renegade, which is, I think, an underused facility, in the long game, I think the courtesy dock as described with the abutting T for additional tie-ups would be beneficial, but I don't know that we're there yet as far as the traffic that we're going to see as we start to try to encourage people to use Renegade again, or more so. With this dock system that we're talking about purchasing, it's a dock system that's on state contract. It is a dock system that's made up of interchangeable pieces, parts that you can attach to one another as you need to complete whatever configuration you want. My suggestion, and this is just, as I reviewed the proposal, would be to have it be the single finger as a true courtesy dock with a 20-foot length to accommodate probably 4 boats at one time. Allowing you to then build off of that in the future with the additional T at the end, and thereby cutting the overall cost of the proposal by, what was it, $67,700 and some odd dollars, or 70 something. I forget what it was, but
I think it's 200. Well, no, never mind. Yeah, the dock 246.
Yeah,
no, the actual T component.
Oh, I'm not in that breakdown.
If you scroll down, there's
Gotta go to the other.
there's 2 20x6 wide fingers that would be formed as a T on the end of it. And they come to a total of $67,778. I think you could get away with that not being incorporated in the design and still have a fully functional courtesy dock for the traffic that you currently see in Renegade. And then have the capability in a future phase, if you will, to add that finger T to the end to accommodate greater traffic as we see the growth in use at Renegade.
And if you put numbers, we're talking 120 from the other rental, 60, 70,000 with this one, that gets us close to that 200,000 gap.
Yep.
So that's, to me, that makes sense, because especially Strawberry is, it is what it is, right? It's the #1 destination for fishing. So we have to have some of these problems resolved. And this sounds like a good idea of scaling the project, redesigning it slightly, saving money, and meeting current demand.
Yeah, you really only lose the capacity to dock probably maybe
boats.
4 boats, depending on how tight things are in that inner corner.
Any other thoughts, responses?
Oh, let's go. Going.
Okay, keep it where it is. Okay,
Next two, they kind of tie for it is the other two strawberry, projects. You got the Renegade parking and then the erosion control at Chicken Creek.
and what were their numbers again?
128.
They tied.
Will you, yeah, scroll back to the erosion control. I just want to see the total cost, the total ask on that grant. It seems like, so that's pretty minimal, if I understand that, 33 compared to
3 to
392, the total request with the 98 to 8.
And currently, the situation is static. It's not a threat because it's not high water level, right? So, the immediate threat to the parking lot, it's already experienced the threat because we have the high water and there was some erosion. And so, this one, I think it's still a priority, but I think it's appropriate where it's at. And it's a simple project, it's just put the gravel and the big rocks.
Right.
And then they could do the paving after that, after they've had equipment in there kind of mashing up the asphalt with heavy load, then come back and do the pavement after the reroad. They're different areas.
Different areas,
Sorry.
but still, I mean, a lot of this stuff, if you're talking about mobilization, demobilization, and working through a contractor, I mean, we have the ability to fly this as one project,
Oh,
potentially, or have it be bid out that way, again, reducing overall mob costs, and, that's an option. I don't know that it's gonna end up resulting in that way, but it might, you never know.
Everybody comfortable with the place, the ranking of this one? Seeing nods, thumbs up. Okay. All right.
Is that for both of them?
Yeah, because they're tied.
Just double checking there. Petrified Forest at 105. The Petrified Forest State Park.
Hang on a second. I want to go. Have we done the Renegade parking? Because I want to comment on that one.
Oh, go ahead.
So I looked at this one and I've got a lot of experience attempting to park at Renegade, and I'm all in favor of it, but I would recommend, because we've done this before, that we look at an expansion of that parking lot. And the reason I say that is if you go park there, we get the center section, that whole north part is taken up with empty boat trailers and concessionaire equipment. If we're going to do anything that's going to be beneficial at Renegade for parking, we should look beyond the scope of this particular project. That's my recommendation on it, just because I have a lot of experience there, and it does need a bigger parking lot.
I think, George, one thing that we've discussed from an aquatic invasive species interdiction standpoint is the fact that the Utah Recreation Company is a better hiring option than the Division of Wildlife Resources, as in they can pay more being a private company. And being able to pay more then gets us potentially more recruits from AIS interdiction specialist standpoint, right? We'll have more people power on the ground. And if we're able to have more people power on the ground, moving the interdiction site out of the canyon and up to Renegade is a possibility. And with that, an expanded footprint would be needed. That's definitely something we've discussed.
I think it's the same as like Jones and all that.
It is
We just
exactly
need
like
to have a
Joe's.
little bit bigger footprint.
Joe's recapture, all of
Yep.
those.
But hasn't the complaint been at Pineview with the same company that they don't put their resources where it's needed and they cut the season off early because of saving costs and money and labor?
Yeah, I mean, Pineview has a little bit longer of a boating season than Strawberry for sure.
Mhm.
And
I'm just
again,
talking about the company, you know.
but again, it's worked into an agreement, right? I think if you're relying on the goodwill of anyone these days, then you're out in the night. It has to be in writing and have some teeth. And then you get, I mean, it took us years to get agreements for access to particular water bodies in the state that were county-based, state parks-based, Bureau of Rec-based, and it took people ponying in, $15,000 or so in places like Lost Creek Reservoir to maintain its access and be open to the public. Maybe a similar situation has to happen at Pineview where we all pay into a kitty and actually agree. We've done things similar to maintaining ice access at Strawberry and then the Soldier on. I mean, it just, there are ways around the problems we encounter with regard to people walking away too early from maintenance of their facilities. And usually it takes the form of either an MOU or some sort of cooperative agreement when people pony up a little cash, pay for the privilege.
Well, the grant application is not for an expansion, but it's just for resurfacing.
This is for the existing footprint, correct? My point was that the likelihood that the footprint is going to grow in the near future is high.
Okay. And will the designs, could the designs be modified to allow for that expansion on a cost-effective basis?
They're going to have to clear and grub new areas. They're going to have to do different things, and nothing we do with the resurfacing of the existing.
Will affect that. Okay. Are you still comfortable with the ranking on this one, George?
I'm comfortable with it being low. So, yeah, I'd say so.
Because we've only got two more. Well, we've got Petrified Forest and we've got the tech and the Flaming Gorge operations. So we're close to the end here.
Okay, next one, again, Petrified Forest State Park. It was a dock.
That's Wide Hollow Reservoir.
Mhm.
I don't have any experience with White Hollow Reservoir. I didn't even know it existed.
Sure. Adam's done a special on Wide Hollow.
It's a great place. It's just a long ways from the Wasatch Front.
Yes, sir, it is.
Got good bass and decent bluegill, and yeah, it's a good little fishery.
So what's our total on this one?
105.
105. Any thoughts about moving it up or keeping it where it is?
I would think it serves such a fairly small amount of people. I mean, not very many people go to it, but I mean, they say the dock is old, and I'm sure it is. So, I mean, it's obviously not as high on my list because it's just doesn't get the visitation that it, say Strawberry or some of these other reservoirs do. So, yeah, I think it's about where it should be.
It was my lowest ranked project just because of the quality of the application. It was really sparse. They didn't really have documentation, and answers to the questions were very sparse, one line answers. The remoteness, what local communities are going to benefit from this boat dock compared to the benefit we get from these other projects. So I ranked it my lowest as well. So I'm comfortable with it being low where it is. Any other responses, thoughts? Okay, We'll go on to the next two.
Flaming Gorge operation and maintenance at 49.
Yeah, this is something that I used as a bargaining chip a long time ago because we made huge investments at Flaming Gorge across the years in boating access facilities. And they simply did not have the funds to maintain their infrastructure.
In
However,
fact, they were getting them damaged, weren't they, Craig? Some of them were getting damaged because they weren't getting moved.
they weren't moving them like we talked about, similar to the breakwater at Strawberry. They were either being rough with them as they were moving them because they were trying to do it in a harried manner, or they weren't moving them at all and they were getting crushed with ice, specifically during ice off. The floats were taking a hit on many of the docks. The docks themselves were getting. It's amazing when you see steel bend and you understand the forces of ice off, but a lot of docks were getting destroyed. With that in mind, we offered up to pay for $15,000 in maintenance costs, and that maintenance cost within 2 years had expanded to $30,000, but has remained stable at $30,000, and they're comfortable with $30,000 since then. Yeah, it's not something I like to put out on the street on a regular basis for the reasons I mentioned before. These are federal lands. They should be managed by federal personnel and federal monies. However, in the event that they are absolutely unable to maintain the infrastructure that we worked hard and invested in, worked hard to establish and invested in, then it is a fallback position that we can take. It's in the same realm as what we used to do, which was pay $15,000 and then $30,000 to maintain access at Lost Creek Reservoir through an agreement that we had with Morgan County. It's not something that you use lightly. How about that?
I think the option to put in this is if with this one here is if we're not making the investment, leveraging that to be there. The options we were faced with is it just won't be there, or it'll just be shuttered and be done with it. We're gonna walk away.
And I'm actually good with this project. Because I remember the investments we made to keep Strawberry open during ice season and the benefits it had to the anglers. So I'm okay with this being what it is and where it is.
I didn't score this at all because I was certain as what we were going to be doing. If I added any score to it, it would not change the position of this. So I could add 15. I'll add 20 points of my score to this, and it would still be below Petrified.
Yeah, it's definitely not a quote unquote sexy project. That is for sure. Nobody likes to engage in funding a federal agency to perform maintenance on federal lands. But sometimes you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So.
Okay, so that would move that to 69. And then our last grant.
It's going to be the Utah Division of Wildlife Tech Time at 15.
Oh, it only scored 15.
That was without the information that Craig just provided us.
Right.
Yeah, so this one is when we roll out the admin component to the Boat Utah app this year, this group will be entering information for the remainder of fiscal year 25 in a manner that allows us to assess the workflow from an end user standpoint. And whether or not three of us, Jorge, Ty, and myself, have done a good job of assessing what the workflow should look like in this app for the end user. Two, it allows us to make sure that functionality as described is being beta tested as far as the ability to upload information in remote areas that do not have cell coverage so that you are maintaining that information on your native app on your phone. And when you ping cell coverage, it will actually populate the database. Assuming those two things are assessed in fiscal year 25, this fiscal year 26 component would be the full-blown targeted strategic. We want these people to go out and do assessments on these waters for these boating facilities. It will take us probably at least 2 years to get what I consider to be, like I said before, critical mass populated in the database, in addition to the information that hopefully we as boating access administrators in the state will be able to provide to Astonish and have them just bulk upload without having somebody have to key information in.
And a lot of this, just to say, is what they're going to go through is they're going to be looking at the boat ramps. They're going to be saying, okay, what's the surface look like? We got a lot of cracking. Is there any separation? What's the erosion on the sides? Down to the courtesy dock. What's it conditioned? When was it put in? Well, he'll be looking at when it was put in, but they're looking at what is its status? You know, is the metal been bent? Does it have a hinge system? Does it not? All that stuff, even to fish cleaning stations, the parking lots. That's, I mean, they're looking at it from a very, very, you know, it's a site visit for what we would be looking at in the grant piece of doing that. Now we're going to ask the managers, the local managers, to do some of this, but this group is going to come and truth some of that too. So it's in essence an audit of the facilities that are out there, so we can look at it and make our decision of what do we need in maintenance to, you know, take care of for the years to come.
And this is going to be a key component to the app, right? So.
Well, and I'll chime in. Unfortunately, I didn't rank either one of these because I just assumed that they were a given, that they needed to be funded and that we would fund them. So I didn't rank them based on what I thought was going to happen and what I think both of them need to be funded. I just assumed they would be.
And I didn't rank this either because of the uncertainty as to how we were going to handle it.
It's all good. That was, you know, my fault for not entering them in as projects because I was of the same mind as George, that it was more of kind of like an ongoing cost of doing business that we put in here. It would be worthwhile possibly as these become that ongoing cost of doing business for me to strip these out and put them in through a different grant process. That isn't like listed as a project, right? I just wanted to put them in here this year, along with some other things. There's a cost of doing business. There's a maintenance cost in addition to the, you know, shiny new projects that we're going to do similar to Saratoga. So, you know, there's a mix of things. And I think when we debrief and talk about criteria offline and maybe with you all as a council afterwards, if we have some kind of seed corn to give to that discussion, what do those criteria need to look like moving forward to address some of this confusion a little bit as far as, you know, is this a maintenance project? Is it ongoing? Is it new? Is it this? And then any other questions that you all have regarding the criteria, what Jorge thinks, you know, he needs to revamp, or what Patrick thinks it needs to be to dovetail with the other grants that they have going on. All that needs to come into the conversation. Sorry, my voice is fading. I've been doing meetings for like 3 days, so I'm like, hey.
Early in our meeting, Craig, you mentioned that these grants cannot have federal match with them, but can it have a federal technical assistance grant? For example, the National Park Service RTCA program. Could they provide assistance to your assessment team in developing the criteria for doing the evaluations?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
I think like CAUSE, for instance, I mean, it's not what we're talking about here, but it's one that we funded in the past. CAUSE, that ramp reconstruction, parking area reconstruction that we're undertaking in fiscal year 25 was funded with boater access funds and outdoor recreation funds, in addition to bipartisan infrastructure monies. All of that comes into play. The issue that you get into when you start showcasing from a federal aid grant standpoint, all of the good things you're doing with all these different pots of money and this, that, and the other, you end up you get into more trouble than it's worth by showcasing all the different partnerships you're bringing forward and the added benefits, and you get more questions. And it takes you longer to get the grant process because it sends up red flags whenever there's federal dollars associated and there's a proration question and this, that, and the other. When it comes to something like a federal grant paying for a portion of something, most times I like to account for it in this arena so that you all see the value of that partnership, and maybe that factors into the criteria that we use to score moving forward. How many partners did you bring to the table? What alternate funds do you have? Those types of things as far as weighting. But at the end of the day, when I submit it to the federal government, voter access grant and its match funds are carved out very discreetly, and I don't mention the other stuff. It's super simple. It's clean.
Well, many years ago, when I did the navigational assessment on the Jordan River, we got the technical assistance from the National Parks RTCA program. There was no money. It was just technical assistance. And so all they did was provide expertise in how to develop the format for the navigational survey, and how did we rank hazards, and how did we rank portages. They actually came out and we helped GPS. So there was no money involved. It was just their staff time expertise.
And that's that in-kind contribution that we
Yeah.
talk about in these Forest Service grant proposals that are shown.
I don't know if it would be a possibility for that tech assessment.
It does not count as match
Yeah, it will not count as much.
because there's a nexus with the individuals that are assisting you, even at a technical level, are paid with federal dollars, and after that nexus.
Oh,
So Fed money
Sorry,
can't match Fed
I
money.
misunderstood your question.
Yeah,
That's where I was shaking my head going, no.
and because it's such a valuable resource, that program, for things like that, but, okay. Well, great. So we now have a list of grant applications in descending order. I'm guessing at this point, if there are any other comments, any other adjustments that people would like to see, is everybody comfortable with the relative position of everything? I think we could probably take a motion to approve this prioritized list.
Do you want to read the
Yeah.
prioritized list out first?
Yeah, let's do that. So with the new scores,
I'll go ahead. Nicole Husk.
Nicole.
Hey, everybody. Sorry to be a pain, but I noticed that you guys did the meetings as just a kind of unanimous vote. And my understanding from the governor's office is that they would like motions like the upcoming motion to be by roll call. Would you guys be willing to do that for this one vote?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that the earlier vote that we did was for minutes, and so that's probably not a priority for roll call for minutes, correct?
Absolutely. And that's why I didn't say anything, because I think that's the correct way to do it. But I apologize if you all already knew this. I just wanted to ask really quickly because it's been passed down from the governor's office that that's his preference.
Yeah, no, thank you. Between you and Shane, you keep us on track. We really appreciate it.
Good. So, Jorge, can you go down the list for us, at least the name of the grant, right? And then just the order that they're in, right? Like
Yes.
number one, number two.
Yes, I can.
He's tabulating.
I am.
And we're really close to the end, right on time.
Okay, so in the way that this is gonna go, it's gonna go Saratoga at
Let's speak
190.
up just a little bit for everybody. Yeah.
Okay, the way that you guys have listed the projects right now, we have Saratoga at 194, Utah Lake at 194. So I mean, varying between the two, 1 and 2. 3, we got Boat Utah app at 183, Pelican at 173, Lucerne at 165, Strawberry Marina Breakwater at 160, Strawberry Reservoir Renegade Dock at 134, and then the Strawberry parking, as well as the Chicken Creek erosion controls at 128, Petrified Forest at 105, Flaming Gorge at 69, and then the Utah Division of Wildlife tech time at 15.
Okay. So with that listing of the projects and their relative ranking with scores, I would like to ask for a motion to approve this list.
I make a motion to approve the grant ranking as proposed. Zach Williams.
Yeah, if you would say your name when you make a motion or a second, that would be helpful. So would you have a second for that motion?
This is Adam. I'll second it.
Okay. Is there discussion to the motion? Any adjustments? I think it's great. I think we've done a great job.
So now we need to go through roll call vote.
Okay. All right, so we'll go through a roll call vote of the council members.
Right, Jeff,
I vote aye. Yes.
Zach,
I vote aye.
George,
Aye.
Adam,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
so Tim,
Hang
Yeah,
on,
Tim
let's
was on.
let's stop presenting, and then we can maybe see everybody on.
Oh, DeWitt joined.
Oh, there we go.
let's go DeWitt. Got a thumbs up. So you gotta say aye or nay.
You have to voice it,
He's finding.
and you're muted.
There we go.
Jenny, still on, Jenny?
Majority. Yeah, do we have just one last call for Jenny?
She's recusing herself.
Okay, so there we go.
Yeah,
So how
we
many do
can-
we have?
We can note her as abstaining if you guys would like for the
Yep,
transcript.
yep, it'd be abstain or no vote.
So
Perfect.
how
Thank
many,
you.
how many ayes?
So you got 5.
Doing this wrong.
Are there any opposed? Any opposed? Any officially taking abstention? Okay, so it looks like the motion passes 5-0 and 1 abstention, right? Excellent. Thank you all. This is great.
You're 2 minutes over. man.
Oh.
Don't go tooting your own.
We started late. We started
We
late.
started a little late.
We
yeah.
started a little late, so we're still on time. Okay. So that takes care of our agenda. Our last item on the agenda would be a motion to adjourn. We normally would have a little time for old business or new business or announcements, but we'll forego that. And so can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
George here. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Oh, Jenny.
Hang on. Do we wanna, could we allow Jenny to vote if she's back on?
I would allow that. What, Nicole, can we add her? Now, she got off the call, now she's back on.
So technically the motion's closed, but there's no reason why you guys can't reopen it.
Okay, I will, can we have a motion to reopen the voting for the prioritized list of grant applications? I'll need a motion.
George here. I'll make a motion. We reopen the voting to allow Jenny to participate.
Second,
This is Jenny. I'll second that. I'm so sorry. I lost internet connections.
okay.
No
Okay,
problem.
so, okay, discussion? No discussion? All right, all those in favor of allowing Jenny to vote, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
We got
now
that.
Jenny, what is your vote on the prioritized list?
My vote is aye. Yes, I agree with the prioritized list as it is.
Thank you. Awesome, thank you so much. So now it's 6-0. And unfortunately, I guess Tim left the meeting, right? Okay, all right. So we have a motion, back to the motion to adjourn. And do I have a second on the motion to adjourn?
I'll second the motion.
Duet,
Do it.
second. There is no discussion on a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Thank you so much. Thank you all for your time. This was
right.
really a good collaborative
Yeah.
effort.
Thanks all.